All right, welcome. This video is for all of you out there who hate long-winded video tutorials. So I updated my latest version of Adobe Photoshop and it wiped out all my settings. So I figured, hey, what better time to show you guys quickly how to do this. So look, I'm just gonna go through and show you what I'm doing and how I set up Photoshop the first time I open it. So we're gonna take a look at color settings. We're going to take a look at preferences. We're going to take a look at toolbars, and we're going to take a look at panels. This is helpful. Don't use the default settings. I'm a photographer, so these are going to be geared towards being a photographer. If you're doing something else like painting or drawing, it's going to differ a little bit, but the process of setting it up is exactly the same. So let's take a look at what I do. So the very first thing I'm going to do is go into preferences. So I'm going to go up here to Photoshop, and this is a Mac, not a PC, so they might be in a different spot. And I'm going to go down here to settings in general. And remember, I'm just going to be telling you what I changed from the default. So in this first one, nothing. So let's go to the next one. And this is just kind of how it looks. So I'm not going to change anything. We've got workspace here. Not going to change anything. And we're down here in tools. So in tools, we're going to change something. And right here where it says over scroll, I'm going to uncheck that. Basically, when you resize an image, it kind of resizes and makes it smaller and throws it up in the top left-hand center. And then you have to do all this crap to get it centered again. So it looks like this and it's horrible. So I uncheck over scroll. Everything else stays the same. All right, let's click on next. Nothing there. File handling. So right here, we've got enable legacy save as. So I'm going to check that. Look, I'm old and I've been using this forever. And so when I do file save as to save an image, the new version won't let you save as a JPEG. It will let you save as a PSD and other file types, just not as a JPEG. It wants you now to use save as a copy. Well, that irritates me in normal life. So if I click that, I can use the old version. That's what I do. You can use it either way. It is not going to make a difference. All right, so everything else is going to stay the same there. Quick export. I'm going to switch this to JPEG. Look, I don't use this, but we're going to make that the higher quality JPEG. You want to convert to sRGB. Performance. All right, so this is where this number here is going to differ. So this is going to depend on how much internal RAM you have on your computer. In general, I'm using 70% of that. So you can use more or less. So this is using your internal RAM to run the program. There's also something called scratch disk that we'll get to here in a second. History states is also something that you might want to change. I leave mine at the default of 50. That means I can do 50 things and it's going to save that in the history as I'm working. So if I want to go back in time, I have 50 states. If you're doing something really complex, you can increase that. However, if you increase it, it uses more memory. Let's go ahead. So subject and remove background. So I want to change all this. This is the new AI stuff. So it's making selections. And you would think working off your internal drive is the better way to go, but it's not. You want to work off the AI engine, which is offsite at Adobe. So we're going to change this to cloud, and we're going to change these to all more stable, okay? So we're going to get better selections and better remove tool and all that stuff, detail processing, all is going to be better by going offsite. If you have a really slow internet connection, this might not be so great, and you might want to go to faster, where it does it internally. Scratch disk. So I'm using the internal scratch disk on my computer. Look, you need about 100 gigabytes of information for Photoshop to really work efficiently. So if you have a hard drive, you might want to change that scratch disk, and I have a variety of drives. I would use an SSD. I don't know if I would use my scratch disk on just a traditional optical drive. It would be kind of slow, but whatever. You need that space to work. If you don't, you're going to get an error that says scratch disk full, and it won't let you save or do anything. And you just need to clear more memory off your internal hard drive. That being said, don't save your photos to your internal hard drive. Save them to an external hard drive. That's just a smarter way to work. Cursors, nothing I change. Transparency settings, nope. You could change this. You can work any units you want. So I actually use inches, but sometimes I use millimeters or centimeters, type in points. Print resolution 300, screen resolution 72. Print resolution I do care about when I create a document, but usually I change those manually. So let's go ahead and go to next. Don't change anything here. Plugins, don't change anything here. Type, nope. Enhanced controls, show touch bar property adjustments. I don't have a touch bar, so it doesn't matter. And technology previews, I just leave it as default. So we're good. We can hit OK and we're done with that. See how quick it was? All right, let's move on to color settings. So we're going to come on up here to edit, and you're going to drop down to color settings. So this is all in the, so color settings have to do with what we call color management in photography. My monitor is calibrated to a standard. If your monitor is not calibrated, these will get you close, but your monitor will probably never be exactly perfectly right. So don't expect it to be. That's why you calibrate. I use the Data Color Spider Elite. They usually go on sale twice a year. Pro, the Spider Pro, it works perfectly. And they're usually about $100 when they go on sale. We've got these settings right here, and this is important. You want to tell Photoshop what color space you're working in. You're also going to be doing this in Camera Raw, and I'll show you that here in a second. So we're going to change our working RGB to Adobe. Now, the Pro Photo is a larger gamut, but Adobe is larger than sRGB, meaning there's more colors. I don't use Pro Photo because it's so large, nothing can support it. So you can't print it and your eye can't see it. CMYK, I don't work in CMYK, but if you did, you could switch to whichever one you want. Gray, we want to change that to Gray Gamma 2.2, which is the largest color gamut there. Spot color, don't use that once again, so I'm going to leave it. Now, for people who are learning, this is a step that you need to use. So right now it says preserve embedded profile. So if you were in the wrong color profile, like sRGB, it won't convert it. So we want to tell it to convert to the working, and I'm going to do them all. And I'm also going to click these two. I use this for teaching because it tells you when it's doing it. So it's like, hey, do you want to convert to your working profile? And you would click yes. That way you know you're doing it. But in real life, you can uncheck this and just have it do it, and it works fine. That's it. All right, let's hit OK and move on. Let's go back to settings. And if we scroll down here, notice there's a camera raw. I'm not sure if this is in the same place for a PC or not, but we also need to change those camera raw settings. So you might open up in general and we want to go to workflow, and we're going to change that one to Adobe RGB 1998. And we want to change this to 16 bits. I'm going to change the resolution to 300 because that's what most things print at. Now, bit depth, we changed from 8 to 16. Basically, this is this. In 8 bits, you have 256 shades of gray. If you had a true 16-bit image, you would have 64,500 shades of gray, which is quite a lot more information. We want to start with more data and adjust with more data. Now, cameras don't shoot in 16-bit. They usually shoot in 10, 12, or 14, but Photoshop only works 8, 16, and 32-bit. Let's hit OK. So that should be set up. And let's come on over to the toolbar. So this is the toolbar that we see over here on the right. And if you click this little double arrow up here, it will put it in 2, but I don't like that. And you can click it like this and make it 1 bar. Now, if you look at this, you see this little teeny tiny arrow that is a right angle arrow and points down. That means there's more tools nested underneath it. So if I click and hold that, you'll see it open up, and Artboards is under that. So if I wanted Artboards, I would click on Artboards. If I want to go back to the Move tool, I go back to the Move tool. Also, there's a letter next to it. That's the quick key. So if you want to automatically toggle to a tool, the quick key is the letter V on your keyboard. So look, there's lots of tools that I don't want nested. And there's also tools that I don't use. So we're going to configure this to how I want it. So we're going to go up here to Edit and drop down to Toolbar. All right. And so right here, we've got Toolbar. And so this is showing you whenever there's two things next to each other, That means these two are nested together. These four are nested together, all right? And then there's a space, and that's why you have a new toolbar. Over here is extra tools. This doesn't delete the tools. It just puts them under those three little dots that are right there, all right? So it says right here, show three little dots. If you need to get to the extra tools, you just click there, and the ones that you put over here will show up, okay? But we're going to configure this. So I'm going to leave this as it is. I'm going to leave this as it is. So right here, we've got a brand new tool called the selection brush. And I'm going to move that out because I don't want that nested. And I don't want the lasso tool nested. So all I'm doing is clicking on that and dragging it. And you can see there's that space right there, right here, that space. And that's making it a separate brush. All right. Actually, I can leave the lasso tool and the polygonal lasso tool and the magnetic lasso tool together because I'm going to delete the magnetic lasso tool. Hate it. All right. We'll leave these two together. There's a toggle switch that I use to use those two. So right down here, we have the object tool, and I want that all by itself, the quick selection tool and the magic wand. So I'm just going to leave those two together. I don't really use the magic wand much. So if it's nested, that's okay, because most likely I'm not going to use it. Occasionally I use the quick selection tool still, but not a lot. Crop tool, perspective, slice, all that stuff. We'll just leave them together because 99.9% of the time I'm using crop. We've got the frame tool. We can leave that there. We've got the eyedropper, color sampler, and all this stuff. I'm going to leave those as is. And now I'm going to start removing these. So spot on its own, removal tool on its own, healing brush on its own. I'll scroll down, patch tool on its own. And then content and aware, and that I don't use red eye ever. So we're going to remove that. So all those are their own tools so I can quickly click them. All right, brush tool, that's what I'm using most of the time. We're just going to leave that. Clone stamp tool, pattern stamp tool, it's okay. History brush and that, yeah, that's okay. Eraser tools, we're going to leave those. Gradient and paint bucket. Blur tool, sharpen tool, smudge tool, don't use, don't use. Right here, we've got the adjustment brush tool, and this is new, but I don't want it there. So I'm going to left click with one, and I can scroll with my mouse, and I'm going to put that right, put that above the object selection tool. Look, you can put it anywhere you want. And that's it. We're done. All right. So I'm going to save this preset. So I'm going to click save, and I'm going to call this JCW. Right. So that's saved. Done. Last thing we have is these windows over here. And look, these are super important because we're going to be using them to do just about everything in Photoshop. So just like before, there's a whole bunch of defaults here. So we've got essentials, and that's what it's set up. You can see this is a custom one that I already set up. Emotion settings, one for painters, one for photography, graphic design, and web. We're going to click photography. All right. So that's going to get us close, but not perfect. Okay. Now, I have the info panel set up here, and that's just because of me talking. It's down here. Yes, I know that. And it's going into this. So that's why I put the info panel down here. I actually do use the info panel all the time. But for right now, I have it set up. We're going to switch this and put the history or something else there for my tutorials. And that's the only reason that's in that location, is because usually I'm blocking it with myself now. All right. So this is funky to get used to, but how does this work? Okay. Right up here, you have the double arrows. This one's probably easier to see right here. If you click that, it opens this out wide. If you click it again, it closes it so it's just an icon. If it's an icon and you click on it, like this is history, it brings the history out. If you click it, it goes away. But if you open this big, it's just there and you can see it, okay? So I usually work with two panels because I'm on a giant iMac. I have room to do that. But if you're on a teeny tiny computer, yeah, this can be difficult. How much room you have over here can make your image really small. So you might want to control it. I actually hook up a really cheap secondary monitor when I work off a MacBook at home. And I put all my tools over on that second monitor. And that way, just my MacBook screen is just the full image. right here we have tabs. So right here, this is the histogram tab. And right over here, this is the navigator tab. All right. So if you want navigator, you click on it. If you want histogram, on it. I don't want either. So we're going to come over here to the hamburger menu, which is all those lines stacked on top of each other. We're going to click on it and say close tab group. Now close would just close histogram. We want both of them. So bye-bye, you're gone. All right. So I don't want libraries. So we're going to close that. So I'm going to come over here and click on it and say close. All right. So I close that. We just have adjustments up there. That's it. Now I don't want the adjustments there. I want my adjustments over here. So if you want to move a tab to a new location, there's two ways you can do it. You can left click and hold and you drag over. And so you can see how it's circled blue around this whole thing here. I'll do it again. It's all blue. That means it's going to go in as a new tab. If you want this to go in its own little space, you want to go up and see how you get that blue line. That blue line just going to put it above it. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to eventually this. So I get pointer to the double arrow. When you get a double arrow, left click and drag and you can make it bigger. Okay. I'm also going to click over here and make this wider. So I get all those tools shown. I don't use presets, so I have that closed and I can check that. So it's closed. Then I can drag this up. So I get the icons. When you're learning, it's helpful to have the little curves. But you can view this in a couple different ways, kind of the old way or the new way. So we're just going to go ahead and leave that like that. So adjustments are right there. On the right-hand side, I just want layers right here. Layers is probably the most important. So for properties, we need it. And I usually have my properties over here. So I'm going to drag it and create that new little line there. Pass, I don't use it. Do channels, we'll just click out of that and get rid of it. So we've got layers there. We've got the info panel here. I'm going to move that info panel here to clone source. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my history over here. And then I'm going to, I'm basically grabbing this line like this. I know you guys can't see it because my face is there. But basically I'm grabbing this and adjusting it. So I'm going to adjust the history. And that should be pretty close. I'll go back in and fix it in a second. So let me go in here. So this is OBS. You can see how I can see it. And yeah, that looks pretty good. I can see everything. So that's my face. That's what I'm adjusting. So let's go ahead and click back on Photoshop. We don't need to see that. So I've got history there. All right. So I do use history, but it's not that important. So when I'm doing tutorials, I'm covering it up a little bit, or I can move it out here if I need be. All right, but we do want to use the info panel, but not clone source. So we're going to come out here and go close. So I've just got info. Now info, we want to make sure RGB and this K is showing. Now by default, K like that is not showing. So to change any one of these, you click on this eyedropper arrow and it comes up. I think it's in actual color like that, and just click on it and go to grayscale. That's the important number, K and RGB. Right here, we've got actions. My actions I use, but not that much. So I'm going to make a third one. So I'm going to come out here and close that. We've got actions there. I don't have any actions in it. It got deleted and that irritates me. Let's slide this up because I don't want that stuff there. And voila, properties. You want to make sure most of this stuff is set up because when we make adjustments, you need to be able to see it. All right, let me hit Command Z and undo that. And so that's basically my setup for working. Layers, adjustments, properties, history, info. However, I might suggest that some people change this. I've seen this. Look, I have the toolbar way over here. And it's just because I've been using it forever. But I've seen some people who are younger than me slide this over here. So now you see we have that vertical arrow. That means it's going to create a new arrow. So you could put this toolbar here and work and just have your image all the way to the right-hand side of the screen. So either way, if you don't like it, you can come back over here. And when that lights up blue like that, boom. If you have not a big screen and you need this in 2, remember you just click the arrow, it makes 2. So that's the last of the setup. So we can save this. So we're going to come over here. We're going to go new workspace, and we're going to do two things here. So I'm just going to do this JCW workspace, and I'm going to click these because I want my keyboard shortcuts, my menus, and my toolbar, which was this, to all be in this workspace saved like this. You don't have to, but I'm gonna. So I'm gonna go like that. So if I ever want to get it back to this, all I gotta do is come up here and hit my workspace. All right. So if I go to Essentials, voila, and then I come here, I go to Workspace, voila, it's set up just how I had it. So, and that's it for how to set up your computer. Look, use my settings in the beginning, but eventually as you get used to using the program, you might want to change stuff around to suit yourself, and you can just create a new one. So that's it. If you found this video helpful and could give us a thumbs up, that would be great. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below, and have a wonderful day.